Can you talk about filmmakers' work ethic? I know you've mentioned before, I think it was on our radio show, that you would actually clock your work, like a time clock, almost like an attorney does for working on a certain client.
Yeah, filmmaking, especially independent filmmaking, is so challenging because I think a lot of jobs, if you're good at them, if you work really hard, and if you're smart about the work you do, you can make a living doing them, or you can make a lot of money doing them. And sometimes in filmmaking, you can do all of those things and not be making any money. So to me, I knew that I felt like I had to be working really hard at this, in addition to having a strategy and having ability, and that the work itself is not going to get done unless you spend the time doing it. And I'm big on analytics and sort of numbers cutting through your subjective impression of yourself. And especially as somebody who runs a website, I need to know how much time I'm spending running that website versus how much time I'm spending working on my screenplay, and to not let the everyday tasks that you need to do, like answering email and the dozen different things I do for No Film School, to push aside the other work that you're doing. So that's why I track hours, is so that I can be honest with myself about, if I think, well, last month I worked really hard on this thing, I can go look at it and say, oh, no, you didn't, or I can say, I'm co-writing another screenplay. Am I letting that overtake this project? Or, if I am consulting or working with somebody else, how much time am I spending on that, and how much is that taking away from, man-child in my project? So, I think that's our most limited resource, is time, and therefore that's the most valuable thing to track.
It seems like we all have this to varying degrees of adult ADD with Twitter and Facebook and everybody checking different things. And even when you check email now, there's incoming news headlines and things like that. So how do you minimize distractions for yourself? What are some of the tips, and what are your biggest distractions?
I think we all struggle with this, especially now with email and, feeling like we should be on social media and available. When I'm doing my best at it is when I'm batching these things. So I'll go carve out a 4-hour chunk to work on a screenplay where, you can use an application, like on the Mac, there's something called Freedom, where you shut off your internet and it won't let you on the internet unless you, restart your computer, and then, you feel terrible about yourself because you couldn't stay off the internet for 4 hours. What kind of screenwriter are you? So, I think, if you're able to step back from it and think about, do I really need to be on my email, once every half hour or more? The answer is no, So I think sort of managing your time in that sense and carving out large chunks of time where you're not available is the key thing to being productive, I think. But, I struggle with it in the same way that everybody else does. And when you're going and you're checking your email for the third time in 10 minutes, it's just, it can be really hard. So I think sometimes having those tools and that separation, whether that be physically getting up and going somewhere else and making sure you don't get distracted, all of those approaches can help, but it's definitely a challenge that I think all of us face.